They heard the engine, a car, moving in and out of the area again and again, just hours before 2 children disappeared. Neighbors reported it. They said it sounded out of place, like someone circling the neighborhood in the middle of the night. But when those reports reached the RCMP, nothing happened. No search, no warning, no follow-up. And now, after weeks of silence, the RCMP has finally confirmed why they didn't act on what many believe could have been the biggest clue in the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Tonight, we break down their explanation, what the witnesses really said, and the real reason police chose not to chase the clue that could have changed everything. It was a still night, the kind of calm that blankets small towns where nothing ever seems to happen. No alarms, no dogs barking, no shouting in the dark. Just a soft hum of crickets and the rustle of trees along Gairloch Road. For most of Lansdowne Station, it was an ordinary night that would soon become unforgettable. Sometime after midnight, though, that quiet was broken. Several neighbors later told police they'd heard something out of place, the deep mechanical growl of an engine, echoing off the narrow dirt roads. It wasn't unusual to hear vehicles pass occasionally, but this one was different. One resident described it as an old truck, maybe a pickup, its exhaust loud and uneven, the sound dragging through the still air. Another said they heard car doors closing, followed by a pause, then the same vehicle pulling away minutes later, slower than before. At the time, no one thought twice. Rural roads see movement at odd hours. Farmers, delivery drivers, the occasional night owl. But when the sun rose on May 2nd, and the headline spread that Lilly and Jack Sullivan were missing, those ordinary sounds took on a chilling weight. The neighbors who brushed it off a night before now realized the timing matched almost perfectly with the window. Investigators believe the children disappeared, the direction the truck traveled, the interval between stops. Every detail aligned too neatly to ignore. They came forward immediately, describing what they'd heard in careful detail. To the public, this sounded like the first real clue, a tangible lead in a case built mostly on absence. The possibility of an unidentified vehicle moving near the Sullivan home at the precise moment the children vanished seemed like more than coincidence. But to investigators, things weren't that simple. No clear surveillance footage confirmed the vehicle. No tire impressions matched the description. There were no dashcam timestamps or cell pings to trace it. The story of the old truck remained just that, a story. Anecdotal, unverified, yet hauntingly specific. So, while the internet ran wild with theories about mysterious driver or a possible abduction, the RCMP had to face a harder truth. Without evidence, even the most impelling memory can't stand up in an investigation. The sound that once seemed like noise had become a ghost in the narrative. Maybe the clue that matters most, or maybe nothing at all. According to redacted court documents and local witness reports, at least 3 different residents from the Lansdowne Station area came forward with eerily similar accounts about that mysterious vehicle. Each described hearing the same unsettling sequence, an engine revving in the distance, the slow roll of tires grinding over loose gravel, then the sharp thud of car doors closing, followed by silence, and finally, the same engine fading back into the night. The pattern repeated between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m. The very window investigators believe Lilly and Jack Sullivan vanished. What makes those testimonies so intriguing is how consistent they were, despite being from people who lived several houses apart. Some even insisted they could recognize the sound, describing the vehicle as an older pickup truck, possibly one that belonged to someone connected to the Sullivan family. It wasn't just a noise, it was a familiarity of it. One neighbor claimed, "You live out here long enough, you know who drives what. You know the sound of your neighbor's truck." Others weren't convinced, cautioning that at night, with wind and distance, sound can play tricks. When RCMP followed up, they quickly discovered the issue that would stall this lead. No one actually saw the vehicle. Not one witness could describe a make, color, or a license plate. There were no headlights captured on nearby surveillance systems, no tire impressions left on the soft roadside dirt, no dash cam footage from passing motorists. Just echoes and recollections, fragments of sound without a single confirming image. Yet, despite the lack of physical proof, the mystery vehicle theory exploded online. Within days, Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and TikTok videos began speculating about who the driver could be. Amateurs compared truck engine noises, matched recordings from YouTube, and even claimed enhanced background audio from police radio clips to prove their points. The vehicle became its own character in the case, a ghost on four wheels, carrying endless theories but no hard evidence. For investigators, this was maddening. Every rumor about the truck meant more false leads, more phone calls to follow, more noise clouding the real signal. The RCMP couldn't ignore the witnesses, but without something tangible to match their accounts, the truck theory sat in limbo, too compelling to dismiss, too weak to pursue. And as days turned into weeks, that unverified vehicle went from being a potential breakthrough to one of the most frustrating dead ends in the entire Sullivan investigation. When reporters pressed the RCMP for answers about the mystery vehicle, officials acknowledged that the witness accounts were real, but they were quick to add an important caveat. Those accounts were not corroborated by any physical or digital evidence. It was a diplomatic way of saying the story existed, but the proof did not. Behind the scenes, investigators had gone through an exhaustive verification process. They reviewed hours of surveillance footage from every possible source: highway traffic cameras, nearby businesses, and home security systems within miles of the Sullivan property. The goal was simple: find any visual trace of a car or truck passing through the area between 1 and 3 a.m. But after countless rewinds and timestamps checked, the results were always the same: nothing. No headlights cutting to the dark, no motion triggers, no passing vehicle reflected in a window pane. It was as if the night itself had swallowed whatever might have moved along that road. Forensics teams went further, combing through roadside gravel, driveways, and shoulder areas for any signs of tire impressions, oil drips, or disturbed dirt that could match a vehicle stopping near the Sullivan home. Again, the findings came back empty. Rural terrain can be tricky. Soft ground shifts quickly with weather and foot traffic, but the lack of even a single definitive mark only deepened the mystery. And that left the RCMP in an impossible position. Without corroboration, they couldn't justify intrusive steps like obtaining a search warrant or seizing a vehicle that hadn't been clearly identified. Sound alone isn't evidence in the eyes of the law. It's memory, subjective and fallible. No matter how compelling the witnesses sounded, police had no legal footing to act. Then came the moment that changed the tone of the entire investigation. In July 2025, after months of reviewing evidence, digital data, and forensic reports, the RCMP quietly stated that the case may not be criminal in nature. It was a carefully chosen phrase, not an admission, not a conclusion, but a reclassification that sent shockwaves through the community. To locals, that statement felt like surrender. Many believed the police were backing away from a crime theory just because they couldn't find proof. Online, outrage spread instantly. Hashtags accusing the RCMP of negligence, of giving up on Lilly and Jack. But from the investigator's perspective, it was a matter of law, not emotion. Without bodies, without physical evidence, without confirmed foul play, the file couldn't legally remain under the same criminal designation. The shift wasn't meant to close the case. It simply meant there was no prosecutable crime yet to prove. In other words, no proof, no warrant, no arrest, and no movement forward. For many, it felt like the moment the trail officially went cold. The RCMP's reasoning, when stripped down to its core, rests on three decisive words: lack of corroboration. It's the quiet phrase that often kills an investigation before it truly begins. In plain terms, it means this: no proof beyond human recollection. Without a license plate, a photograph, or even a single verified trace of the alleged vehicle, investigators had no way to confirm that what neighbors heard was connected to the disappearance, or, for that matter, whether the vehicle even existed in the way it was described. Sound is subjective. It can travel differently depending on wind, terrain, or time of night. A truck heard a mile away might not have been near the Sullivan property at all. In today's investigative landscape, memory alone rarely moves a needle. Digital forensics has replaced eyewitness testimony as the foundation of truth. Investigators now build cases around what can be measured: cell tower pings, GPS coordinates, vehicle telematics, doorbell footage, and metadata embedded in files. These traces don't rely on perception. They exist independently of fear, rumor, or bias. But in the Sullivan case, Those digital footprints led nowhere. No vehicle movement around the house. No phone leaving property at suspicious hours. No GPS anomalies. Nothing in the hard data supported the haunting story neighbors swore they heard. That unanswered question sits at the heart of the mystery, suspended in silence between what people believe and what can be proved, until the data or someone's conscience finally bridges that gap. The disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan will remain what has always been, a tragedy wrapped in uncertainty, a case that defies closure. I'm True Crime Radar. Stay curious, stay critical, and remember, in every mystery, the truth hides in the details.